I must admit, I do a bit of waffling when it comes to downloading new apps. I'm always hesitant, like, do I really need another app? Maybe you can relate, but I've got one for you that's definitely worth trying out because A, it's free, B, it takes 5 seconds to set up, and C, it's going to help make your trips and your travels so much easier. It's called Trip Waffle. Did you see what I did there? Waffling, waffle, you get it. You can stop juggling confirmation emails. You simply forward them to Trip Waffle, and they turn them into a beautiful itinerary in seconds. So I tried this out, actually, before I recorded this, and I wanted to see how will this perform. So I found some old booking emails from a trip I took last year, forwarded them to the Trip Waffle email, and voila, it appeared right in the app. Beautiful visual layout of the itinerary, had the concert tickets, had the flights and everything. It was all right there. So this is a wonderful app for organizing your itinerary. Just go to tripwaffle.com or search Trip Waffle wherever you get your apps and give it a go.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
It's about recreating a warmth in your home and in your heart that is not present outside anymore because it's winter.
That's a great, I've never heard it described that way. Today, you will discover this killer Norwegian cultural concept worth stealing. I call this appropriate cultural appropriation. That is today's guest and my friend Lorelou Desjardins. Since 2013, she's been helping people make sense of Norwegian culture at her blog, afroginthefjord.com, which is now a publishing house. Among other things, she's published 6 books in Norway and internationally, along with 250 articles for mainstream media. Her latest book is called How to Be Norwegian. That's what we're talking about today. In that book, she offers a fun crash course into 55 essential cultural quirks. We're going to talk about some of them, including some of the ones that I found quite quirky when I first came. This is obviously a very personal episode for me, being an immigrant here in Norway, now a Norwegian citizen, and, in some ways still trying to figure things out. We talk about some of that cultural confusion. Actually, during a portion of this, I go off a little bit. I have a little bit of a rant. I do air some grievances, some personal stories I've never shared before about my life here in Norway. It was a bit cathartic, so you'll hear that. We talk about the cabin culture, which is huge in Norway. People love their cabins.
There is this cabin culture also. So you have all these cabins all over the country that make it quite easy to travel basically for anyone and have access to this amazing nature.
And of course, we're going to talk about some of the things to do, to see, and to eat in Norway and loads more. Maybe you're planning a trip to Norway. Maybe you want to reconnect with pieces of your Norwegian ancestry. Maybe you're just Norwegian curious. You want a little bit of insight into what it's like to live here. You're going to come out of this one with a better understanding of life in this part of Scandinavia. Again, some personal stories and some other fun stuff, and I hope you enjoy it. So let's dive in. Thanks for being here, and welcome to the Zero to Travel podcast, my friend.
You're listening to the Zero to Travel podcast, where we explore exciting travel-based work, lifestyle, and business opportunities, helping you to achieve your wildest travel dreams. And now your host, world wanderer and travel junkie, Jason Moore.
Hey, Jason here with ZeroToTravel.com. Welcome to the show. Thanks for hanging out, letting me bring a little travel into your ears today. This is the show to help you travel the world on your terms, to fill your life with as much travel as you desire, no matter what your situation or experience. You can find Lorelou's work over at afroginthefjord.com. We'll link up to that. And you can find her personal story, a bit more about her projects on her personal website, Lorelou.com, which I will link up to as well in the show notes. This was a fun one, recorded in person in my home studio, and I hope you enjoy it. Before we dive in, just a reminder, zerototravel.com/newsletters, where you can sign up to keep in touch off the pod. I have a voicemail box as well. I love to get voicemails from listeners. If you want to drop me one, you'll find that link in the show notes. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Lorelou. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the other side, my friend. Cheers. I've got a frog here in my studio, and her name is Lorelou Desjardins. Welcome back to the Zero to Travel podcast, my friend. Why are French people referred to as frogs? I never really understood that, actually.
Well, the rumor says we eat frog legs.
Oh yeah, okay.
Although I've never eaten any, but that's the rumor. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the rumor's not true. Is that what you're saying?
I think it's true for some people, but I think the British people and the American people, especially the Brits, have a tendency of calling us froggies.
Yeah, because no offense to frogs, but they don't seem like they have much meat on their legs. It doesn't seem like a very enjoyable delicacy. Well, I'm excited to have you here. This has been a long time coming because you have this new book with an awesome title and an amazing cover.
Thanks.
And also great content in between. I shouldn't leave that out. It's not just the cover. Don't judge a book by a cover, but if you were judging a book by its cover, this one is a good one, but the inside is great too. How to Be Norwegian. And this is your specialty. I mean, you're looking at Norwegian culture from an outsider perspective. And I mean, we had a great conversation in the last episode, which we will link up to in the show notes. You know, there is something about being an outsider, a foreigner, and moving to another country and seeing the culture from an outsider perspective. And then, you know, even diving deep, I think all travelers can relate to this. And sometimes you look around as a traveler and some things are a mystery because you just don't understand. But when you live somewhere and you're starting to be able to pick up on the nuances of the culture and you're still seeing it from the outside perspective, I find that Norwegians I've talked to, you know, some of these things are happening and they're doing and they don't even notice it anymore just because it's such a part of their everyday life. So we have a lot to unpack today.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I've traveled a lot in Norway too.
Yeah.
So that has been very insightful.
Your first book, a bit of a memoir, I'd say. It was a memoir. And this one's more an overall view, sometimes humorous view. And I think it's a great mix of sort of like facts, but also, you know, stories, and, you know, you have a much better understanding of Norway, I think, after you read through this. And, you know, before we dive in, because we have actually 5 different points we're going to make, and we want to, along the way, provide some cultural and travel advice. So this will give you some insight into the culture as a traveler, you know, things like how can you connect with a Norwegian locally, but then also some interesting things that you might be just curious about to learn that are happening in this part of the world. And I mean, that's part of our fascination as travelers. We're like, how do things work? Why do people see things that way? And so you're going to get all of that. What do you think about being an outsider and writing this book? Like, are some of these things, do we exaggerate what we see as outsiders, or are they...
I think...
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think we exaggerate. I think in the case of Norway and Norwegians, I think there are many misunderstandings.
Misunderstands.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think there are a few misunderstandings. So misunderstandings can be about the culture, the people, you know, some people say Norwegians are cold. I don't think that's necessarily true.
Okay.
And about, for example, geography. I'm on a lot of travel website platforms, social media, and a lot of people, travelers, really don't understand how long Norway is as a country, and they believe that they can just go island hopping, or, you know...
You would think this would be the first thing people look at when they're going to travel to a country.
Yeah, and it's a very long country, and I think even Norwegians sometimes don't realize that, because I've talked to Norwegians from Oslo about the north of Norway, and they are so... they have really no idea about the distances there. So I think it's more of a misunderstanding than an exaggeration. So that's also what this book is about. It's about giving, you know, useful information to people, having a little bit of a laugh, And also giving keys to people to understand Norwegian. So whether you're a traveler, tourist, maybe you have someone in your family who wants to move here, it's really for everyone.
Yeah.
It's
And
even for Norwegians, actually.
I always think too, I love cultural concepts and hearing about them. And I think that there's also an opportunity to maybe, try some of these at home, even if it's just for a weekend, and some of these ideas that you hear today. You mentioned the geography, which is actually the first point we're going to get into. We thought, we'll start with geography because that's something that, it's fun to talk about for all travelers traveling to a new place. I don't know. Tell me if this is true, because I've regurgitated this several times as fact. And I forget where I heard it. I must have picked it up as a fact, but I don't know if it's true or if this is in the book, but I've heard that if you put a pin in the south of Norway and spin it around, imagine doing that Norway would touch Rome.
Yeah.
It's that long.
Yeah. I mean, I'm French. If you take a plane from Oslo to Paris, it's the same time than taking a plane from Oslo to Tromsø in the north. And Tromsø is not even the north tip of Norway.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely possible that, it's that long. Absolutely. Yeah. And the other thing is that it's not like there are highways everywhere. Sometimes you have to take a ferry. Sometimes you have to take a mountain road. You have snowstorms. You have islands. There is so much diversity in the Norwegian geography.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating country, and there are so many different landscapes. If you go to the south, to Sørlandet, there are it's very flat. You have these white sand beaches that look a lot like Denmark. If you go to the north, you have these amazing islands, which are kind of mountains coming out of the sea, like the Lofoten Islands, for example. Mm-hmm. And you have whales, orcas, etc. And then you have the flatter areas of the kind of tundra, a bit like Russian, landscape, where you have lots of reindeers. That's in the very, very up north. So it's like a variety, which is kind of insane if you think about it for a single country with only 5.5 million people.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting, I don't know if you've noticed this, I'm sure you have, just how popular it's becoming in terms of a place to travel.
Yeah,
it's just
crazy.
Exploded. Well, I think it's the perfect storm because you have all of this that you're referring to, like the spectacular variety of nature. You have friendly people. It's a safe country. You can't emphasize enough the spectacular nature.
Yeah,
I mean, that's one of the draws. But also the currency exchange right now is pretty favorable.
Yeah.
And the coolcation, quote unquote, coolcation trend, the idea that people don't want to go to Madrid anymore in the middle of the summer because it's just it's way too hot.
Yeah.
Why don't we go up north where it's cool? All of these things.
Yeah. And, a few years ago, I was on Senja, which is Norway's biggest island. It's in the north. And this is not a tourist place for Norwegians in the summer. Definitely not. And I remember we were in this camping site. It was really cold and rainy. Yeah. And we meet this Spanish family with two small children. And we're like, what are you doing here? This is the middle of the summer. You come from Spain. What on earth are you doing on Senja? And they said, we can't handle the summer anymore. We just cannot do it. And so I think you're right. We're seeing more and more people who are really craving for this, more livable temperature. But also Norway has amazing drinking water, which is a very good quality. Mm-hmm. You can swim in the, in the sea, in the ocean. You have lakes. As you said, it's a very safe country. Allemannsrett, that law that says that, freedom to roam, I think it's called in
every
English.
Man's right.
Exactly. So you can basically put your tent up anywhere
should be
for
called
a few
every
days.
Person's right, of course.
Yeah.
But, that we're just directly translating the word.
Yes.
Don't
don't
jump down my
freedom to roam, I think is called. Yeah. And so all of these things make it a very easy destination. And there is this cabin culture also. So you have all these cabins all over the country that make it quite easy to travel basically for anyone.
Yeah.
And have access to this amazing nature.
Yeah, this is something people might not be aware of, is how big the cabin culture is here. And it's just such a huge part of Norwegian life. A lot of people have cabins that have been handed down through their family, or they buy. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Let's just say, and there's arguments for and against that, and should they build more and things like that. And that's getting into maybe some of the current politics in Norway. But when all's said and done, you as a traveler or a visitor would have access to a lot of cabins, and I'm not sure that that's something that a lot of people that visit take advantage of, really. I mean, you have those in campsites, certainly.
Yeah.
But the fact that, we've done road trips where we just randomly pull up to a farm that has built a couple cabins on their farm, and they just happen to have them for rent. You just see a little sign that says you pull in, and you're staying in this cool sort of cabin.
And sometimes they're by the fjord, sometimes they're in the mountains. I mean, there are so many different kinds. Sometimes they have outdoor toilets. Sometimes, so it's sometimes they serve dinner, in these DNT cabins.
Yeah, that's another travel tip for sure. The DNT. I'm sure it's dnt.no.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah. I can't remember Den Norske.
It's the Norwegian Tourist Association in English.
Yeah. I actually it's on my list of things to do. I don't know if you've done it with any of your kids, but we have some neighbors that went to one of the staffed cabins.
Exactly.
Like you said, you have ones where you just get the key and you're on your own, but some other ones, they have staff and they make food and it's the whole thing.
Yes.
And man, that just sounds so awesome. I can't believe I haven't done it yet because it's right up my alley. Have you done it?
Not in the ones which are stuffed, actually, but I would love to do that. They call it trips going from cabin to cabin. So you set up an itinerary, and then you have so many hours of hike every day, and then you know that you have this warm place to go back to every evening. A new cabin with food and if your interest is piqued, just check out dnt.no. It could be a great experience to plan a trip around. Absolutely.
Right? Like
and you don't
sort of that part of it, and then kind of build your itinerary around that.
Yeah. And you don't have to carry all your tent, and you don't have to carry as much if you do it this way.
That's true. Yeah, you don't have to bring it.
Yeah.
Also, was there anything else you wanted to highlight in terms of the geography of Norway before we kind of move on to
mean, there's so much to say, but I think also the fact that the seasons are so important in Norway, and if you come during the winter in the north, you literally have many weeks without sunlight.
Yeah.
Which makes a difference, and you have the northern lights in the north. I really recommend it coming during the winter, but also during the summer, doing both.
Yeah.
I think the winter is really magical. I have a special place I like a lot, which is called Røros in Trøndelag.
Oh, yeah.
And they have a beautiful Christmas market. And it's
we love Røros.
Yeah, it's a place in Norway where there's a lot of snow, so it really looks like, I don't know,
it's
Santa's village or something.
It's pretty magical.
It is.
It's a UNESCO World Heritage site.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And I do feel like, there's places like that in Norway where I would say that most people do not end up visiting. Of course, like Lofoten and some of these other iconic hikes that you see on Instagram and social media. But there's all these other places to check out that are just as beautiful in their own unique ways. And last thing I will say, because we talked about the Coolcation thing, I didn't tell you this. We took a road trip around Norway this summer. And it was so funny because I was telling my neighbors I thought of everything. We got like the rooftop thing with all the camping gear. I got like all the camping gear I was missing. We had 2-burner stove, all this stuff, all set to go for like this camping extravaganza. And guess what happened? It was too hot to camp. It was a heat wave. And so even coming to Norway now, you're not guaranteed to avoid extreme hot temperatures. Like we ended up renting a cabin instead of camping just because the sun was coming up. At
really?
Well, yeah. I bet that was so hot too. But at least you could darken it, because if you're camping and it's 3:30, 4 in the morning, and the sun's hitting the tent walls and you're just starting to bake.
Yeah. So
you're not getting any sleep because the sun never really goes down.
Yeah.
It sort of just gets a little bit dark, and that was going to be a recipe for this family not being able to cooperate.
I have a tent that's dark inside and white outside.
Okay. Yeah. I don't have that kind of tent, but maybe I should invest in one. Sounds like a good idea. We'll get back to the interview in just a moment. You may have heard about Built as the loyalty program that lets you earn points on rent wherever you live. Well, they just leveled up even more. As of 2026, homeowners can also earn up to 1.25 times points on their mortgage payments. This is thanks to Built's 3 new credit cards, the Palladium card, Obsidian card, and Blue card. All 3 turn your housing payments, rent, or mortgage into flexible rewards, so you can choose the card that fits your lifestyle without missing out on points and exclusive benefits. Built points can be redeemed at top airlines and hotels, Amazon.com purchases, future rent payments, and more. Built points have also been ranked by top publications as the industry's most valuable point currency. Your housing payment is already your biggest expense. Make it your most rewarding. Find the card that fits your lifestyle and apply today at joinbuilt.com/zero to travel. That's joinbuilt, joinbilt.com/zero to travel. Make sure you use our URL so they know we sent you. Terms and limitations apply, subject to approval and eligibility. Built cards are issued by Column NA, member FDIC, pursuant to license from MasterCard International Incorporated. Are you the type of person who really enjoys doing deep travel research, building unforgettable itineraries, figuring out the best accommodations, sending recommendations to friends? Did you ever think, hey, people actually get paid to do this? Why am I not getting paid for this? Well, that's where Fora comes in. Fora is a modern travel agency designed for people like you who want to turn their passion for travel into a real business. Here's how it works. Fora gives you everything you need to get started. Access to tech, training, and a thriving community. Everything on the platform is built to help you start, grow, and scale your own travel business with confidence so you can turn everyday travel planning into real income by booking trips for others and earning commissions on hotels, cruises, experiences, and more. Many advisors start by booking for friends and family and just grow from there. It's time you turn your passion for travel into a business with Fora. Become a Fora advisor today at foratravel.com/zero to travel. That's Fora, Fora, travel.com/zero to travel. Make sure to tell them we sent you, foratravel.com/zero to travel. Now, back to the show. Okay. Number 2, I thought, well, at the heart of this, what could we take in some of the things you wrote about in the book and apply them to some people that might be visiting? And I landed on how to connect with Norwegians. So we can kind of summarize this part with some advice around that, but maybe you should just start with some of the social dynamics amongst Norwegians. So when people are walking around, if they're visiting, they can see. The first thing you talked about is this misunderstanding that Norwegians are cold. And maybe that's a good place to start. And then we can get into some of the things you wrote about in the book.
I think, so the book is like 55, aspects of Norwegians, like Norwegians in a nutshell in 55 topics. And so the social skills and social relationships is quite a big and important side of being Norwegian or interacting with Norwegians. And I think there's this saying going around among foreigners that says that Norwegians are as cold as the weather. Mm. And I don't think that's exactly true. I think Norwegians are a bit reserved. They can be a bit shy, especially when they don't know people. But they will always help you when you're in need. This has happened to me when I was traveling, alone with my bicycle, for example. And I don't know, there's like a storm or I don't know. I've had all sorts of issues on the road, like any traveler would. Yeah. And I've always found people to help me out. So I think people would help you out. It's not like they're cold and, shutting you off. But at the same time, it is true, it's a bit of an individualistic society. So it's not like if someone sees you, being lost in the street, they're going to jump on you and try to help you at any cost either. So I think my tip would be just to say hello and be nice to people. And I think people are quite genuine and they would say hello back most of the times, at least.
Yeah, I agree. There have been times when I've been very frustrated with Norwegians and their behavior. And I only take the excuse of being shy and things like that so far. And sorry to my Norwegian friends, but I mean, I've been in some situations, and I don't know if you've experienced this, where they haven't helped.
Oh,
they
really?
haven't even asked if one time we were on a bus, and the guy, right when we pulled out of the bus station, we had just, thankfully, put the seatbelt on my son, who was in a baby seat at the time. And we had just sat down, and the bus driver had already went, and he had to slam on the brakes. And I hadn't even sat down yet. I was still in the aisle. He did something wrong, had to slam on the brakes. I think it was totally his fault from what I could understand. And my wife got a black eye. Like she slammed into the seat in the back. Thank God my son was strapped in. Otherwise, he was young. I mean, he could have just smashed it. Who knows? I can't even think about it. And I went flying, like as if a monster grabbed my backpack and pulled me through the aisle. I went flying like through the air. I don't know, maybe, 7 rows or something. Came crashing down. I didn't go all the way into the windshield or anything like that, but I went to the bus sort of right next to the driver. Other people sitting there saw the whole thing. Nobody even asked if I was okay.
Interesting. Here in Oslo?
Like that's just a normal human thing, And again, this is not me throwing Norwegians under the proverbial bus, so to speak. But I was pissed. It's just like, really?
I agree. Yeah, I think.
And then something happened this summer where a dog basically bit my son at the campsite. The guy didn't say anything to, it just seems like in situations like that, come on, okay, you're shy, but get over your shyness and just
that's not shyness. I think,
or like when people are on the subway and they don't get up for somebody who's standing there who may be older, these kind of things. It's just.
I think that's something else, that it's people not wanting to get involved. And that's the part where there is shyness, and then there is this more individualistic culture.
Yeah.
And I believe it's worse in cities than in small places. Yeah. I live in a small place outside of Oslo, and I've been traveling to many small places in Norway. And I think there's much more solidarity in these small places. So if you're on an island, stranded in a snowstorm in the north of Norway, there's a higher chance someone you don't know is going to help you than if you're, as you said, on a bus in Oslo where people are just looking at their feet and hoping to get off soon and not have to take care of anything.
But come on. Yeah. Just, anyway, my rant, I'm sorry. That was my rant. I'm not going to rant anymore.
It's okay.
On this episode, I
But
promise.
yes, I agree.
But just that time, it really grinded my gear. And that was the time when I really missed my home country, because people would have checked on you.
Well, if I can have a rant of my own, I have another thing. This is not in a situation where I needed help, but it has happened to me that neighbors have not said hello to me for years.
Yeah.
And I kind of avoided me. And I'm like, we live 40 meters away. I see you every single day. Like, please. And they would see me and they would walk to another, in another street. There are only 2 streets. And eventually it took almost 3.5 years for them to have a conversation with me. And
is that Norwegian, or is that just that person?
I don't know, and that's the thing. But that would be that in France is like they would send you to an institution if you did something.
Or is it like
that?
They have this layer of that in the culture, and then people that are extremely shy or just like extremely avoidant, like they're going to lean into that part of the culture.
I think it's socially acceptable to be like that here. Whereas
so they're just I'm going to take advantage of this because it's socially
whereas
acceptable.
in other places it's not socially acceptable. Like that's very, very strange. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean we've lived in a apartment building where same kind of thing. For years you're just like, really? You're not going to say hi?
So it's I think and also it depends on many things. If you're a tourist, if you speak Norwegian, I mean, they can be. It also depends on the person. Yeah.
You do a lot of writing in the newspaper.
Yeah.
And you have this book, but you're not just some sort of mysterious author writing and putting these books out and nobody knows who you are. You write about Norwegian culture in major newspapers in Norway, which obviously opens up comments and thoughts. I'm just wondering, how do Norwegians receive, because I'm sure some of these ideas you've put out in articles in various forms, and you're commenting on Norwegian culture as a foreigner. What's the overall reception? Like, what do Norwegians think of you commenting on their culture like this?
I think they like it. It makes them feel important.
They love that.
Yeah, I think Norway is a small country, and it's a small nation, and it's also a young nation. It's Norway has a bit of a particular history in Europe because they were occupied by Denmark and then by Sweden for many, many hundred years. So they've had to kind of find their own cultural identity. And I have a section about Norwegian identity. The subtitle is "It's Complicated," because it is complicated. So I think they're very interested in what makes them so Norwegian and so them. So when someone from the outside says, "Oh, that thing I've noticed, that's really Norwegian, and that other thing is really Norwegian," they really love it. Whereas they would...
Because it's giving them a sense of pride and national identity.
Yeah, I think so. And like the feeling that they exist, they're
seen.
Yeah,
everybody
they're
wants
seen.
to be seen.
Yeah, and they're seen and they're different. They are their own country. They are their own culture. They are not the Swedes. They are not the Danes.
Right.
Or God forbid the Finns.
Yeah. So when you're acknowledging the individual Norwegian cultural elements, it's like it's highlighting them, and therefore people are proud more.
Yes, and an interesting,
it's a sense of pride.
Yeah, and an interesting thing about Norway is that Sweden, the Swedish economy is based on a lot of consumer brands that are very known internationally. Spotify, IKEA, Volvo, etc. Finland has Nokia. So all of these are consumer brands which are recognized worldwide. But Norway's economy is based on natural resources, and those are not consumer brands. So they produce oil, they produce salmon, they produce gas, but those are not like...
Yeah.
You're not talking about that in your daily life like you would talk about IKEA, for example.
Right.
Or about Spotify. So I think they really want to get out there on the international scene, and they have the Nobel Peace Prize, of course, and other things, diplomacy. But they are struggling a little bit to be this international kind of icon, like other Scandinavian countries could be. So they love it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love that about Norway. I love that it's the nature and the outdoor life and that connection that feels like one of the most iconic things, as opposed to a consumer brand. By the way, IKEA, the place where couples go to fight.
Yes. Exactly.
If you can survive a trip to IKEA as a couple, then you're going to make it. It's the greatest test of all, even more than a year-long trip around the world together. No, I'm kidding. Okay. Well, we've talked about the outdoors and identity a bit, which was the third thing I had on my list. Was there anything else around cultural identity that you wanted to highlight that would be useful for people listening here? Or
I think
any other personal anecdotes around, being misunderstood as a foreigner here?
I think there's this thing about nature, as you said, which is very central. When I lived in Denmark, I remember my friends from Copenhagen told me, but you're not going to move to Oslo. You know what Norwegians do to have fun? They just go for a trip in the forests. Like that sounded completely insane to them because they're so city-oriented. So I think there is this thing in Norway about, skiing and going for walks, etc. But there is also a huge city life coming out of Oslo, Bergen. I was in Bergen not long ago. Tromsø, Trondheim. So I think that's interesting, and the culture is also the food. So I'm French, so of course I'm obsessed with food, and this is next on the list.
By the way, okay. Food and drink. Well, we can slide right into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because I've talked to foreigners who've been living in Norway for a long time or who traveled here 25 years ago, and they say that they couldn't even find garlic in supermarkets.
Really?
And now you have these top-notch restaurants in all of these cities. And so the food scene is really evolving into something else. So that's interesting, I think.
Yeah. Well, let's dig into that.
Yeah.
And then you had some fun stuff around how alcohol works here, which is always sort of... I find that tourists are interested in that. Like, why is it you can only get it here and it's only open certain times, and what's the deal? And Norwegians, why are they get so wild on the weekends?
Yeah, that's an interesting... It's a whole story, actually. It's very interesting.
We can start there, and then I'd love to hear your recommendations for people who want to dig into the food and drink scene. But let's start with the alcohol thing and some of the things you talked about in the book, because it is pretty fascinating.
So there's a chapter in the book called From Vikings to Vinmonopolet. So Vinmonopolet is the name of the state-owned...
I love alliteration, by the way. So nice work with that. Like the V, the double V. Vikings to Vinmonopolet. Sorry.
It's it just translates to wine monopoly. I mean, they didn't go too far on the branding there. It's called wine monopoly, literally translated. Yeah. And it's just like the Norwegian state has a monopoly on selling any alcohol drink that has more, I think, than 4.2% of alcohol. So, and they also decide on when you can buy alcohol, which kind of alcohol, etc., etc. So that's quite strict in Norway. But the funny thing I find, and that's what I talk about in the book, is that I think it's interesting that today it's so strict rules on alcohol sale. Yet at the Viking time, it was you got a fine if you didn't have the beer. If you weren't producing or if you didn't have beer available, it was called something else at that time, because then you would get a fine because the king could come at any point and he would need that beverage, right?
Okay.
So at that time you would get a fine if you didn't have alcohol in your home, and now you get a fine if you buy alcohol. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's, I think, an interesting development on the use of alcohol. And also at that time, small children were drinking the ancestor of beer, which is completely forbidden today, of course.
Sure.
And it's very, very strict control on, what minors get in terms of alcohol, even under 21. I mean, there are many rules. But apparently I was digging into this story and I was wondering how, when did this change? And apparently at the beginning of the 20th century, there was... people were very drunk all the time. There was a very big alcohol problem. And the labor movement and the church allied to try to have this big campaign against alcohol consumption at work, especially, and also in churches. And so I was very surprised the first time I went to a mass in the church, because the wine was alcohol-free. In the church. So that was...
And you're French.
Yeah, I'm French.
Yeah.
I was like, what's happening here?
Yeah.
Where is the wine?
You're like, I came to church for the wine.
And then they give you coffee. I'm like, what is this? What do you mean you give me coffee? So for us, like just the alcohol-free wine, like those words together, it just doesn't make sense for a French person, just to begin with. But no, it is a bit strange because as you said, they drink alcohol from it's okay to drink alcohol from a Friday 3 p.m. until Saturday, basically, far into the night. So if you get completely hammered during those hours, that's normal. That's being social. But if you drink a glass of wine on a Tuesday at 1 p.m., then they see you as an alcoholic. So that's also a bit difficult.
They just pack all of their drinks within like a 36-hour period.
Exactly.
Basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. And that's important to know for travelers, is that if you're looking to buy a bottle of wine, you have to go to Vinmonopolet. There's no other place you can buy a bottle of wine.
I don't think the binge drinking here is very not great lifestyle wise.
It's not.
It seems like it's of course we all know alcohol can be a social lubricant, and because Norwegians are shy, they really lean into that.
Yeah. And actually, I've thought of this because I come from a culture where we drink quite a lot, but we drink in a different way. And I've been thinking, why is it so different? And my conclusion is that the social life and the social, bond happens in France around food. Mm-hmm. Whereas here it's around alcohol. So before
wine's a part of that.
Yeah, wine is just a part of that.
It's sort of like a side attraction.
Yeah, it's like a side attraction. It's the same with bread. Like we eat bread in France, but it's not the main meal. It's not the whole meal. And Norwegians, they have bread as the whole meal, or they have alcohol as the only social lubricant. Okay. So they will go to a party and they've eaten already. It's like 6. I've been invited to parties at 6 p.m. and in my mind, obviously, there's going to be food, but there's no food. They've eaten at 4:30 p.m.
Well, there might be frozen pizza.
Yeah, eventually. Later that night.
The national treasure, as you say on the back here. Why is frozen pizza become a national treasure? Do you want to answer that question? We're in food and drink category right now.
Yeah,
so.
I mean...
Yeah, it's hard to believe. There's some... Well, let me just, before you do that, 2 things. What you said about here, frozen pizza being a national treasure, is hilarious and true. And also the taco fredag thing. They have boxed taco on Fridays. Those things were both shocking to me in a way.
Yeah, and actually I was wondering about... I had a chapter at some point in the book. I took it out. Norway is the biggest consumer of Pepsi Max in the world.
Yeah, they love Pepsi Max.
They
here.
love Pepsi Max. They drink so much of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Grandiosa, it's like if you go in any supermarket, you have these huge aisles of frozen pizza. I don't think they're that good, personally, but I come from south of France, close to the border with Italy, so,
Yeah.
I don't know. But then there's this taco culture, which is also interesting.
Yeah.
And they have also a huge amount of Mexican food in supermarkets. So I can't really judge Mexican food because I don't know much about it.
I can.
Yeah, you can. So what do you think?
It's boxed taco.
Yeah.
So it doesn't compare to getting Mexican food in the States. But
Yeah.
I don't mind it. I actually was going to say I'm a proponent of both of these things because they're easy dinners to make.
They are. And actually one of the illustrations for the taco culture in Norway, the illustration in my book is a Norwegian woman giving a taco to a Mexican man and he's crying. I think there's a lack of spices. I think that's, that can be something that's a bit... I also have chapters about dating in Norway, which can be quite challenging. Yeah, because it also evolves around alcohol.
Yeah.
So if you don't drink, that can be, a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what should people eat while they're here? If they want, we already covered the frozen pizza and the boxed taco. Those are must-haves. No, I'm kidding. But, people are coming for a visit. Before we move on to the last point here we're going to talk about, which is how Norwegians speak English, which can be interesting and useful. And there's some funny stuff there. And we've both, I'm sure, have had our language faux pas over the years. But the food and drink, what do you start, when people come to visit, I'm like, well, let's make them a proper Norwegian meal. And a lot of times we'll make them medisterkaker, for example, like these meat cakes with tyttebær, which is like a lingonberry essentially on the side. It kind of functions like we use cranberry for a Thanksgiving dinner, gravy, potatoes, things like that. Or we might do a fish thing or salmon, of course.
Yeah, fish. I think fish is a good bet. There are very good mussels in Norway. The Norwegians don't eat that much of it, but they're very good. And I'm very fond of game meat, so reindeer.
Moose.
Yeah, moose. I really like that. And there's my favorite fish in the world. And this means something because I come from a fish city, Marseille, where we have a famous fish soup. But there is a fish that's amazing in Norway. It's called skrei. And it's a cod that has been traveling for many, many thousands of kilometers. And it's fished outside of the Lofoten Islands only at a certain period from January to March, roughly. And that's an amazing fish with bacon and, oh my God, it's so amazing. The potatoes are really good here, the carrots, everything that's, being in the ground, that's close to the ground, basically.
Yeah. Very local.
Yeah, very local. Yeah. And there are farms actually in Norway where you can get really good food, produce that was made there, So I think there's a lot of things. And in supermarkets, there are a lot of makrel. What is makrel in Norwegian? In English?
Mackerel.
Mackerel, yeah. With pepper, smoked mackerel with pepper. I think that's quite cheap as well. If you're traveling in Norway and you want to eat kind of cheap food, that's really good. Yeah, I actually really love Norwegian food. They have very good lamb as well.
Yeah.
So I really love the traditional Norwegian food, and that's why I get a bit. And in my first book, I write about that, where I was invited to this Norwegian dinner, and I was expecting traditional Norwegian food, and they served me box taco,
Right.
and I was so disappointed because I was like,
This
"Where's
was
the
my
fish?
chance."
Where's the lamb? Where's the you know?"
Yeah. We'll get back to the interview in just a moment.
This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at accenture.com/Spotify.
This episode is supported by FX's The Shards, a seductive drama from executive producer Ryan Murphy. Set in 1980s Los Angeles, the series follows a group of glamorous, deeply entangled high school seniors drawn into a life of wealth, beauty, parties, and excess. At its center is Brett, whose reality begins to unravel when the arrival of a new student coincides with a series of mysterious murders. FX's The Shards premieres August 5th on FX and Hulu.
Now, back to the show. Well, this is for travelers that do opt for, whether you're renting a random cabin on somebody's farm, or like I said, you can go to a campground and you can find some very cozy cabins there, and we've rented those as well. You can go to the grocery store and look for the foods that have the Norwegian flag on them. They're produced locally, like you said, carrots, potatoes, things like that. You have the meats that are local.
The cheese.
Yeah, and just
very good cheese. Yeah.
Getting inside is probably going to be cold or maybe a little chilly if you're in Norway most days. And go in your cabin and cook up just some of the local food from the grocery store.
Yeah.
It can be a great way to just try some different things.
Absolutely.
And like you said, you can. I've been to supermarkets in Røros, for example, over the summer. We were there, the town we were talking about earlier. And they had a whole section in this supermarket of just local food, because they have been producing a lot of local foods in Røros, and now they're starting to build that as a brand in a way across the country. And I think their stuff's really good.
Yeah, they have a lot of dairy in Røros.
But they had like a whole wall of all this local food, and that's fun. To you're visiting there, you're staying in a cabin or even wherever, just hit the local food wall at the grocery store, and that can be a cool thing as well. Food and drink. Such a great way to explore culture.
Yes.
Can't
absolutely.
not talk about that.
No, absolutely.
How Norwegians, and we have a bonus one here, which is something you can steal this weekend and try at home, something I think that we both value as a part of Norwegian culture. But before we get to that, let's talk about how Norwegians speak English. I forgot about the story we were talking about before the podcast of the race car driver, because I had heard that pretty recently, and it's sort of a funny thing that encapsulates some of the things we're going to talk about.
So there's a chapter in the book called, so if you want to be Norwegian, you need to speak English with fart. So fart, but actually fart in Norwegian means speed.
F-A-R-T.
F-A-R-T.
Same word, yes. You're hearing us right.
Yes. And so it's interesting because Norwegians don't dub their American or British TV shows on television, which means that they have a very good understanding of English, I think, compared to the French, for example, who dub everything. So that doesn't really help. But the first funny thing is that there are many words that are spelled exactly the same in English and in Norwegian, but they mean completely different things.
Fart.
Like fart or like smell, for example. And then the other thing is that Norwegians can have, I believe, a very thick Norwegian accent when they speak English, but I feel like they're not really conscious of it.
No.
And the last thing I find quite funny is that they have names which sometimes don't translate very well to English. Like in the book, I have this, fake introduction between two men who say, "Oh, hi, my name is Odd," and the other one says, "My name is Even." Because those are actually two very normal Norwegian names. Odd or Even.
O-D-D, odd.
Yeah, Odd or Even.
Like, Odd Seaman would be a Norwegian name.
Exactly. Or Gaute, which sounds a bit like goat when you read it as an English speaker. And you have many of those which just sound so strange in English. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny when I'm pushing them on the swings when they were younger and they're asking for more fart. I said, which kind do you want? Sorry. I know it's a bad dad joke, but
I wanted to call my son Askill because I really like that name. Askill. It's an old kind of Northern Viking name in a way.
Yeah.
And my husband was like, are you out of your mind? Like, you want to call our son Askill? Like, are you completely insane?
Yeah, you're not setting him up for success.
Do you not want him to leave Norway ever in his life? And I was like, oh yeah, that's a good point. Okay.
Yeah.
So we went for a more traditional
Yeah, I know what you mean.
instead.
Yeah, well, let's say fast forward to he's 16 years old and a foreign exchange student in America. Is Askill here? Just like, oh no, here we go.
Yeah, or just like I have a friend called Thor.
Yeah.
And that's a normal name and that's okay. But he's like, I am so tired of explaining to people abroad that, yes, this is my real name.
Mm-hmm.
I am called
right.
Thor.
I'm not making this up.
I'm not making this up.
I'm not
this
part
is
of the Marvel universe.
And this is a normal name in Norway. And this is, and he got so tired of telling that story.
Yeah.
So he came back to Norway partly because of that.
Yes. So rest assured, regardless, most Norwegians speak spectacular English, and they're cutely shy about it because they don't think their English is that good, but they secretly love, I think, talking in English and practicing it. And sometimes I'll even speak in Norwegian, they'll just switch to English because I think they just want to speak English with me, which I appreciate because I can't express myself in the same way as
in Norwegian.
Yeah, in Norwegian, it's difficult for me, and it's challenging. It can be challenging when I know your Norwegian is next level. Mine is average. So
I think it's hard. I think it's harder for people who have English as a native language because you're so used to being really good at that language. And so if you have to speak Norwegian, it's like the gap is so big if you have to learn a new language, if you see what I mean. And as you're saying, people speak very good English here. I'm not sure I could say the same about French. It's not like people speak that good French in Norway.
No, they get mad if you speak English too. There's that also. No, that's the perception anyway.
I think I get often when I speak English, Norwegians tell me, oh, your English is so good, because French people have this reputation of speaking such bad English. But I was kind of forced to learn Norwegian when I moved here. So I also have a chapter about dialects, and I think that's a bit of a rough, that's a tough learning curve in Norway, is that you learn the language and then you realize they have two official languages, so nynorsk and bokmål, and then on top of that they have like 5,000 dialects where they say words completely differently than how you learned it. And there are tough moments there. I remember once in a bus in northern Norway, I thought my Norwegian was pretty decent, and he talked to me and I didn't understand a word of what he said.
And your Norwegian is good. So that's saying a lot. Yeah, the dialects can really throw you off. Sometimes just for fun, I will speak in Western Norwegian dialect, like some words, just because my wife comes from the other side of Norway. And it just drives her crazy.
Oh yeah.
What are you doing? Why are you speaking like somebody from Bergen? You're ridiculous. And I am. I will admit that I am ridiculous. Okay. The bonus category, do we want to call this? I don't even know, to tie this up. And we want to send people off from this podcast with a classic Norwegian concept that they can do at home this weekend. And I can guarantee that it won't make you sad. It will, in fact, set you up for a wonderful evening, at least. Just embracing this concept for even one evening. Lay it on them. You know what I'm talking about.
Is it kos?
Yes.
Koselig?
Being koselig. Talk about what that is.
Yeah, koselig. I actually wrote an article in the newspaper many years ago.
Spell it. Hold on. Spell it so people can get a visual of that.
So koselig is Koselig. Elig.
Yes.
It's
Kushli.
similar to the Danish concept of hygge, which many have heard of. Hyggelig and
I don't know
hygge.
why that's gotten more international press than kushli.
You know, I think Norwegians
good
are a bit
marketing.
annoyed at that because why not kos from Norway?
Right, it's the
But
same
anyway.
thing, just different country.
Yeah,
in a way.
it's just that I think in Norway, because it's much colder than in Denmark, it takes new heights here. So it's about, I wrote in that article many years ago that it's about recreating a warmth in your home and in your heart that is not present outside anymore because it's winter.
That's a great, I've never heard it described that way.
Yeah. So that's how I've defined it. And as soon as the winter kicks in Norway and it's going to get colder and darker, you see people lighting all these small candles in their homes and having these small, fireplace, and everything has to be very cozy, but cozy doesn't embrace the concept of kushli because kushli is on a much higher level. And it's about, preparing for Christmas, decorating your home, having again a lot of small lights. And so it's really high from, I'd say, October to March.
Yeah.
And then spring comes along and it's less important, but it's still important. Like if you're in a cabin, as we were talking about earlier, outside at Easter time, it's a bit cold. You have like a woolen plaid on you. You're drinking warm cacao, warm chocolate, looking at the view with your friends. That's kushli.
Yeah.
That's like super kushli. And so I think going back to social relationships, if you manage to create these kushli moments with people in Norway, then that's how you know you're making friends and creating those bonds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, it's definitely a bonding thing as well.
It
and there's
is
something about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds, the practical side of kushli, as you describe it, let's say, okay, if you're just breaking it down, thinking about it practically, I'm going to make hot chocolate. I'm going to get a warm blanket. I'm going to light some candles. Okay, those are the practical things you can do. But then it's the intention.
It's the spirit.
It's the spirit that's infused in those practices, I would say, right? It's the idea that, we're going to make it cozy. We're going to sit down and we're going to enjoy this cozy atmosphere. And even though this weather might not be cooperating with us today, we're not going to let that stop us from just enjoying life in a way.
Yeah.
In some, you need to kind of create this vibe to, it's not dramatic to say to survive the winter, but it's just kind of
it is a bit
for
actually.
For your mental health, kind of for.
I think it is because also you invite people at your place, during the winter, and they need to know that they're going to be driving or taking a bus for so much time in this horrible weather for a reason. And you enter a warm home which smells nice, where there are small lights, where there are, friendly people, you feel welcome. So it's all of that, I think.
Yeah. And all seasons. We say, we honed in on
seasons,
winter because it does amp up, I think.
Yes,
or
it
ramp
does.
up, I should say, in the winter.
It does.
So go ahead, buy some candles, get yourself a cozy blanket, get yourself some hot chocolate or whatever thing, and have it kushli this weekend. And I think that's a great challenge to send people off on coming out of this episode, which was super fun to have you come over here and talk about this.
Thank you.
How to Be Norwegian is the book. We'll link up to it. And sounds like because you live internationally, one of the best places to get it is just Amazon because they ship everywhere and it's available on other platforms as well. And I think I sent you a picture because we're friends and I saw it in the airport or somewhere.
Yes.
And I was like, hey, look what I saw. And so it's just cool when I walk into an airport bookstore and I see, hey, my friend wrote that book, How to Be Norwegian. That's really cool. And it's fun. So this is a great one that thank you for bringing me a copy today. And it's just something cool that you can have in your stuff. If you're like geeky like me with cultural concepts and just learning about some of the nuances of different cultures and you have an interest in Norway, this is or maybe even some heritage in your family or whatever, it's just a fun read. So
Thanks a lot for having me. This was really nice.
Yeah. Anything else missing? You want to?
Oh, there's so much we could talk about.
Yeah, I know. We would have to come back for a part 2 then. If you want us to do a part 2, let us know. We'll plenty more to dig into here with Norway. But I think it's fun just to kind of trade stories with another foreigner living here.
Yeah.
And you're a Norwegian citizen now?
I am.
Yeah, okay.
I am.
We're both citizens, but getting to jam on the outside perspective of Norwegian culture is always fun for me. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
There you have it. Thanks to my friend Lorelou Desjardins. She is the author again of How to Be Norwegian. It's a fun book. And I always love the idea of, like I said, appropriate cultural appropriation, kind of getting these cultural concepts, these ideas, maybe incorporating them into your own life, even if they come from other countries, or just, experiencing that vibe, adding something new. It's always fun to break out of your routines and your habits and pull some inspiration from another place and take it home with you. We do that as travelers, right? It's one of the fun things of travel. You can see how different people live around the world, and it's inspiring. It sparks ideas. It gives you insights into a place, into humanity, into yourself, and on and on. I love that about travel. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And if you want to learn more about Norwegian culture, you can pick up Lorelou's book. I'm going to leave you with a little uttrykk. It's an expression. That's Norwegian for expression. Probably not pronouncing it correctly, but a famous one here in Norway. I'll leave you with this in a moment. Just first want to say thanks, because we are now a part of the Airwave Media Podcast Network. If you go to airwavemedia.com, you can check out some of their other wonderful shows. They got plenty of awesome shows over there, and we're excited to be a part of it. Okay, there's a famous Norwegian saying. It goes like this: Ut på tur, aldri sur. And that means when you're out on a trip in nature, traveling around, whatever, never sour, never grumpy. You can't be grumpy. You can't be sour. I mean, I take it like this. I mean, you could take it 2 ways. One way is you shouldn't be grumpy when you're outside, on a trip or whatever. The other way you can take it is it's impossible to be grumpy if you just get outside, get some fresh air, or get out on the road, whatever, however you want to interpret this. Ut på tur, aldri sur. If you're out on the road, out on tour, out on a little hike, whatever, no need to be sour. It's a place where you can be happy. You can find your inner peace and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of how I interpret it. And I think how many of the Norwegians interpret it. But you could also, because of the weather, say this at any time if you're out on a hike or whatever, and it's just miserable and cold and raining, and you can look at somebody's grumpy face and say, ut på tur, aldri sur. Come on now. Get that smile on the face. Anyway, hope you get out and have a wonderful day yourself. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Peace and love to you and yours. Cheers.
This podcast has been brought to you by ZeroToTravel.com. Ideas and advice to make your travel dreams a reality.
Via Podcast is a travel podcast by AAA Mountain West that goes beyond destinations to uncover the stories that make places unforgettable. Hosted by Michelle Donati and Mitty Hicks, the show explores the American West through fascinating stories of history, culture, wildlife, folklore, and adventure. This season features stories about Route 66, wolves in Montana, Bigfoot in the Pacific Northwest, and much more. If you love great storytelling and discovering the hidden side of the places around us, search for Via Podcast. That's the letters VIA Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts.